When I first moved in, it was mostly Jewish neighborhood. And most of the businesses along Rosa Parks were Jewish business. But we did have some black business. And we had doctors here, we had drugstores, and a lot of things here that you didn't always have to go downtown to get. You could get a lot of the things that you needed right out here on 12th Street at that time, before the civil disturbance. But then as time went on, the erosion began.
Detroit's black community began to suffer from overcrowding by the creation of I-75. The new interstate highway caused a great number of well-established black businesses on Hastings Street to close their doors for good, and devastated the surrounding black community by forcing people out of their homes to make room for the new road.
One of the problems that I know of that happened, when they began the construction, doing the construction of I-75, at that time, they were not relocating people, and people were walking. The street would see you on the street and ask you, do you know of a place, do you know where we can find a place to live? And I think some of the people maybe took advantage of that, or maybe they didn't even know what was going on. They rented to one person and maybe they let their relatives and things move in with them, which can create a problem with overcrowding.
The people in the community were concerned about the conditions for their families. And we decided that we would try to get organized. And Benny Marcelina Merito, want to be referred to as Benny, was the first person to get us organized as a community, because he organized us. Then we got together down at St. Agnes, and Joseph Walker Williams was the appointed out of our group after we were organized to organize block clubs. And we organized 52 block clubs.
Despite the people's efforts to unite the community, a police raid of an after-hours drinking club on July 23, 1967, escalated into a riot. To make matters worse, the National Guard, who had no experience in urban matters, was called in by Governor George Romney and Mayor Jerome Kavanaugh.
It's frightening fire when you don't know and it can't be controlled. It is saved through a Molotov cocktail into the supermarket, and when that burned, then that building caught fire, and it was like bombs going off, and that fire just spread it.
I stayed up there every day when they was riding and breaking up windows and getting in, but I was there every day with my dog and my gun, right inside the store every day, from sun up till sundown. And when they put the National Guard on and put the curfew on, I couldn't walk up 12th Street. The guard would radio and I go 14th with my dog, and then I would go up to Edison, they'd radio and let me cross. That's the only way I could get to and from here, because they had a curfew on until from 6 o'clock in the evening, I think, until 8 o'clock in the morning. And so I was right back down here.
Well, 12th Street was just a vacant street. Nobody was on it because all the buildings had been demolished or burned or down or torn down, and even if they left the building up, people would go in and strip it.
One black couple that had purchased a small business on Rosa Parks, and the lady told me it was the first time she had ever seen her husband cry, because he had retired and they invested their savings into this small party store that they were going to have. And then everything was destroyed.
After 5 days of civil unrest, 43 people lay dead, 1,189 injured, and over 7,000 people were arrested. Everything had been burned to the ground, but the spirit and the commitment of the people in this community were reinvigorated. They let the city and the business community know that they were determined to move forward and build a new place to shop.
Heretofore in the city, the whole concept of urban renewal had sort of a negative connotation, not sort of, it had an extremely negative connotation to it. And because it had been primarily clearance, and it had been clearance that was very insensitive. It didn't really relate to any of the concerns and needs of the community folk. It just generally, the program would sweep in, acquire the houses, tear everything down, and ultimately it wound up with a whole different set of people living in that place. Well, this project was conceptualized differently. The idea was, yeah, there was some necessary clearance that needed to take place, and it should take place, and that there were some street layouts and things of this nature that needed to take place, but that overwhelmingly the community would remain intact and in place.
The civil disturbance destroyed 97% of the shopping area along what Rosa Parks, which at that time was known as 12th Street. And a group of community people previously had talked about having a shopping center. So that group focused more on the need for a shopping center at that time.
So we talked about it, and we've heard about Reverend Sullivan in Philadelphia building that black shopping center in Philadelphia. And then we had to try to find out some way to talk to Reverend Sullivan. But we went to Philadelphia, and we stayed up there, I think, a weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we met with Reverend Sullivan. We toured the Philadelphia shopping area, and he told they had a 1036 plan, $10 a month for 36 months, and that would give enough people, get enough seed money for the down payment for the shopping center. Then we came back here, and well, it was my idea that I called Tucker, Samuel Tucker, and Benny Bomarito. Benny Bomarito was a Filipino, and Tucker was a professor. We was all in on Virginia Park, down on the council. So we called a meeting in Bomarito's apartment down there on the boulevard in 12th. Just the three of us, Tucker, myself, and Bomarito. And we discussed how we could form an organization, an investments associate here, to build this shopping center. And we went around to different groups. I did. I went to block club groups, community groups, trying to sell the program. But it was a hard sell for black folks, because they said that we wasn't gonna never build nothing up here. We should get out of the way. That's what colored folks, a lot of them told me, and let white folks build something in here. And we said, no, we can do it. And I told them it's the best thing to do if we did it on our own. If we get a shopping center in this area, and we would encourage people to shop right here, because a lot of people didn't have transportation and they had to shop here.
We were meeting day and night as far as that's concerned. And then we had the same people involved almost in everything, everybody that was really interested. And then one person would take the responsibility, like foster, for the housing and the shopping, and down at the center, community center, then everybody just would take on responsibilities as far as motivating it.
The Virginia Park Community Investments had its roots with the beginning of the Virginia Park Rehabilitation Committee. And what evolved from that was the Virginia Park Citizen District Council. And the District Council was to oversee the redevelopment of the Virginia Park, what is now the Virginia Park area, and to see that regarding the type of businesses, and make sure we got the right type of businesses in the area. One of the project-orientated groups was the Virginia Park Community Investment Associates, which was created to oversee the development of a non-profit community shopping center. That's how we began.
You could become an owner of the Virginia Park Community Investment Association by investing only $360. The word was out, and the citizens believed enough in their community to make the investment. $300 for the bond at 8% interest and $60 for the membership. It took some time, but the goal of $90,000 was reached, and the community was ready to move to the next step.
I was one of the persons that was designated to help sell the bonds. It was not an easy task because we were looking at this devastation, which took a long time to remove all of this and to clear 12th Street so that you could do the building. And we were asking people to invest in a shopping center, and they just didn't see how we could do that.
When I was employed with the city, I was the chief inspector in this area, and after the disturbance, we tore all the houses down and removed it, all the debris to build the shopping plaza. I was informed that this was the only minority shopping plaza in the United States. And I purchased a bond on that belief that we would build the shopping plaza and make it one of the best in the United States.
It was very hard to try to sell people on bare land, and year after year, it looked like nothing was going to ever be accomplished on the land that was left vacant. And we was also paying liability on the land and the sidewalks around the place. And a community group starting out with no money, and it was quite a task. But we were fortunate to have good citizens to step up to the plate and let us have the kind of money that we needed, seed money, to start doing some things.
Something was pioneered in this community as relates to community participation that was unheard of probably in the country at the time. We always knew that HUD and the federal government allowed for some paid community participation, but nobody, no cities and communities would ever utilize this. So we sat down out here with the community leadership, and we fashioned something that we named a local participation agreement, which was a contractual relationship with this community to provide them, at that time, a minimal amount, and the amount now escapes me, but it was enough for them to hire some staff, hire a person, and maybe a secretary, and you know, represent them. Because this whole notion about community representation is a joke if they're not able to have someone there who's always there, who can stay right up on top of things and represent the community during the business hours of the day, when after all, that's when most things are happening. The very first CDC law, Citizens District Council law, was the exact word-for-word local participation agreement contract, the word-for-word. And so at that time, and Chris Alston, who was in Forest Park and had heard about this agreement Virginia Park had, and he wanted one for his area, he was up there, and between the two, we were able to support Daisy Elliott, and it became a law.
With the extraordinary vision, determination, and investment from the Virginia Park community, and the strong commitment from the city and Mayor Coleman A. Young, a team made up of community, government, and business came together to develop a shopping center for the people, by the people. The Detroit Growth Corporation was the lead agency.
Now, the things that I was concerned with here I want to talk about a little bit, is the financial package that we put together that really was the binding factor that made it work. First of all, there was the $90,000 that the community had raised. This money was in place. Next, there was $1,023,000 in block grant money. And then added to that, there was $750,000 in UDAG money. UDAG money, which was Urban Development Action Grant money. This was 1980, and this was the beginning of this particular program. In fact, Virginia Park got the the second grant that was issued in the whole nation, and this was truly a grant. In fact, we had to fly into Washington, D.C. and meet with Shirley Diamond, who was the head of that program, to get this money for Virginia Park. We had asked for $1.5 million, but they, being a new program, they granted us the $750,000, but we were able to make up the difference with the block grant money that was put into the project. So that was most of the money for the project. The rest of the money we were going to get in a mortgage, which would be a mortgage, and Equitable Life Assurance Company came to the table with that dollar amount, which was $1,475,000.
20 years ago, I was the head of the Community Investment or Social Investment Department at the Equitable, major life insurance company. And we had the opportunity to make a loan for a neighborhood shopping center in the Rosa Parks Boulevard area of Detroit. It was sort of an unusual investment for us. I mean, it was owned by a community organization. It was in what some people might call the inner city of Detroit. But it had terrific economics. There wasn't a shopping center anywhere nearby. And we had a really committed division manager, Pete Popovic, at the time, who was in charge of our Detroit office. And he made a very compelling case for actually investing in the center. Wasn't easy. It was smaller than a lot of our investments and had some unusual features. It had a lot of government money. For instance, it had some community development block grant money and an urban development action grant, one of the first, in the country. All that sort of puzzled us, but also gave us greater comfort because there was a lot of soft money or secondary money behind us. And we also had in Farmer Jack's, a supermarket chain that really knew how to serve, residents in Detroit communities. And when we looked at the economics, we felt that they were strong enough to actually, and that in the Perrys, to actually help carry the center. So we made the loan.
So there was a lot of activity in that area. Henry Ford Hospital was very involved with the Virginia Park Henry Ford Hospital development. So things were beginning to happen in the area.
After bids from various construction companies exceeded the budget, they still needed someone to provide the construction funding and someone to build the center. This is when a committed tenant, Paul Borman, stepped up to the table.
The Rosa Parks Boulevard project really began at the time that I was on the New Detroit Committee, the original New Detroit Committee at the very beginning with at that time it was Senator Coleman Young, who later became the mayor of Detroit. When he became the mayor of Detroit, he and I pretty much struck a deal that Farmer Jack would open a new store in the inner city about one every 18 months.
In that process, he agreed to finance the construction financing with no interest, which was extraordinary, for somebody to step up to the table to build a store, which is about 40,000 square feet, and to finance it, the construction financing.
Our first store was opened, which was Farmer Jack, opened March the 25th, 1982. The next one was the Perry Drugs, which is now Rite Aid, open.
And at the time, I don't know, Perry was had only one drugstore in the city. And it made history because he was about to close that one and get out of the city. And we know in this community that we needed a drugstore.
So we had 40,000 square feet of a supermarket, 6,000 square feet of a drugstore. Now we had a major anchors, and we could then move in the area in terms of smaller outlet stores. Ron Hall went in with a Bonanza. which is a minority Bonanza owner, Mr. Staggers, Little Caesars Pizza, and quite a few others. And also the bank made a decision, DB&T, not Comerica, to build a bank outlet on the outlot. The city put up the land, transferred the land to the Virginia Park Community Improvement Association, also transferred a UDAG, Urban Development Action Grant, which went into the project, and some block grant monies. Also, SBA put a 504 program in. So long story short, it was a holistic neighborhood approach to development, and it was a total community effort from corporations like General Motors, Henry Ford Hospital, like the Borman Company, like the Perry's Company, Perry's Drugstore, as well as some of the community retailers all coming together. It would not have happened.
Back in the early 80s, we had an opportunity to be interviewed and to be accepted to handle the management, the property management of the, at that time, the second only minority-owned, African-American-owned shopping center in the United States, and the only one within the state of Michigan.
Typically, our company, our other clients, we might meet with on an annual or even a quarterly basis. Well, this board is so committed to the success of the center that we meet with them on a monthly basis. As a matter of fact, the third Tuesday of each month, I'm sitting in front of them. I am reviewing in very close detail every single contract, major transactions, the collections, leasing activities, all the operations involving the center. And one thing I can say that's unique about this group of owners is they are very hands-on and very concerned and very involved. And believe me, they take me to task if they feel like I'm not on top of my job and my people and making sure that the center is run adequately. They let me know it.
When the time came for renovations and refinancing, Comerica stepped up to the table. Comerica, one of the tenants, has always been a great partner.
We did a major renovation here, facade improvements, some paving, some landscaping, and the community organization realizes that these things are necessary in order for Virginia Park to continue to be profitable and to attract tenants that are in this area.
The center not only provides a convenient place to shop, but it is also a resource for the community. Over 20 scholarships have been given to deserving young people living in the Virginia Park Community Investment Association area and to the children and grandchildren of bondholders. These scholarships are given in honor of Herschel L. Richey and Carrie Hayes Gaskins, past chair of Virginia Park Community Investment Association, and Marie Coleman, the first person to invest in this project.
Our plans are to try to find all of the things that you would like to have happening in this Virginia Park community. We want to educate you on what services are available, and we want you to put your thinking cap on today. And as you think of things that you would like to have done in this community or you'd like to see done in this community, we're going to have a table over here where you can write your suggestions down. We're going to put them in a box so that you can, we can work on them and see if they can't become reality.
We are a non-profit organization, and we do not pocket it, and we do not purchase some of the outstanding things that other folks do when they're in business. And so our agreement was to flourish our community.
After operating the shopping center for over 25 years, the current VPCIA president Mr. Cleophas Johnson, has a greater vision for the area. It is time to reach out and provide service to the seniors in the community.
For the future, we have implemented plans for a new building for senior citizens in the area. This consisted of, because of the senior citizens have multiplied more in this area than we have space for. So that's why we are building a new building for activities for the senior citizens, have training programs in there. We will have computers, we will have various types of training programs that we will have for the families and for the youth that's in this community. It is essential that we have some type of activities for the seniors. So that is one of the plans for our future plans.
The Community Economic Development Committee is now in the process of entertaining the idea of building a community senior service center on the grounds of our shopping center.
We're getting older. I know I am. And I'd like to turn this over to younger people who really wanted to see us get ahead, who cared as much for this community as we do, and have ideas that maybe are better than the ideas that we have, that see into the future a little bit better than we do.
I am involved as a board member and still live in the community because I feel that if we don't continue as a generation after those that have worked hard to build this, unless we work hard to continue it, we won't reap the fruits, if you will.
This has been a profitable community development, which I think says a lot about the people involved with it, and it can be used as a model throughout the United States on how to do community-based economic development.
I'm Congresswoman Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, born and raised in the Virginia Park community. From birth and yet today, I still live in the Virginia Park community and happy to be a part of it. I first want to say thank you to Mr. Richey, to Carrie Hayes, and to the entire Virginia Park Board of Directors for believing in our community and bringing us together that we might own a piece of the pie.